Principles are important because they serve as a foundation for a system of belief or set of behaviors. It is important that you have a set of principles that help you to go and grow and help you to achieve your goals throughout your life. This is the third principle of success. It's about persistence. Now, the mantra for this principle is as follows: I will persist until I succeed. That's it. I will persist until I succeed. Now, with this principle, you want to recognize that we are tested by life. So I say as follows: I recognize that each day I am tested by life. If I persist, if I continue to try, if I continue to charge forward, I will succeed. I will persist because I will persist until I succeed. I was not delivered into this world in defeat, nor does failure run through my veins, because we are not sheep. God gave us gifts and abilities for us to succeed if we just discover them, apply them, and use them. Okay? I will not listen to those who weep and complain, for the disease of complaining is contagious. Let them join the sheep. Let them become the sheep. Remember, we will persist until we succeed. There's a strange saying that I'm sure many of you have heard. It says nothing beats failure nothing beats quit than a failure. So remember that the prizes of life are not at the end of the journey. Those prizes, so you got to work for them first. A lot of people want instant gratification. They want the prize before they get the work. They don't understand that you got to go through the journey. And the prizes of life are at the end of these journeys. Some of the journeys are short. Some of them are longer. But they are at the end of the journey, not at the beginning. It is not given for us to know how many steps that we got to take to reach our goals. Some is 10 steps, some are more. Some may be 1,000 steps. But remember that we may encounter failure at the 1,000th step, yet success may hide behind the next turn in the road. So if you quit at the wrong time, you may quit just before. There's a story, it's a true story about a gentleman who he owned a farm, but he always longed to be rich. And he had always heard and read stories. This was in South Africa. And he had always heard stories about folks who struck it rich discovering diamonds. Because, of course, I don't know if you guys know that diamond mines, there are a lot of them in Africa. Africa is rich in diamond formation deep below the ground. Well, this gentleman was so anxious about that, he sold his farm to fund a venture to go out and start searching for diamond mines in other parts of his country, in South Africa, as well as other countries throughout Africa. He sold his farm. He didn't sell it cheap. He sold it at market, but he sold his farm to fund his adventure. So he went off and he spent about 9 years, I think it was, if I remember the story correctly. But he spent some time out searching for diamond mines. He never discovered any, so he finally went back home to his town in South Africa, only to discover that the gentleman that he sold his farm to found a rich deposit of diamonds on the land of his former farm. So he went out and searched for what was already under his feet. So if he had searched his land, his own land, with the intent that he did out in the rest of the country, he would have found that it was right there. his dream, his journey, his end was right there. So that kind of goes to say that never will we know how close that journey, that goal lies until you turn the corner. But if you quit, you'll never know. Or you may find out later somebody else turned that corner you could have turned. So in our journey, even when things are difficult, and believe me, I can personally attest to this, and I say always do I take another step, because if that is of no avail, I still take another step, even when things are working, when I'm trying different things in business and trying different things to promote my business and take my business to another level. Oftentimes, many things don't work, and it's frustrating and it's difficult, but I keep going. We keep going. We want success. We must keep going. But in truth, you take it one step at a time. And if you think about it, that's not too difficult. So instead of worrying about how many steps is it going to take, let's just go one step at a time. Just like the old joke that says, how do you eat an elephant? It says one bite at a time. Because remember, if we persist, we will persist until we succeed. So we want to persist and continue to persist until we succeed. Henceforth, we want to consider each day's effort as but one blow of your axe against a tree. Say it was one of those big trees, even with one of those big California redwoods that the trunk, the trunk of the tree is, 20 feet across. They've cut those down, and they shouldn't, but they have. And how did they do it? One chop at a time. When they started using those long axes, they did it one stroke at a time. So, henceforth, I will consider each day's effort as but one blow of my axe against a mighty oak. Now, the first blow may not cause a tremor, nor the second blow, nor the third. But each blow of itself may be small and seem of little or no consequence. Yet, the oak will eventually tumble. It'll be much like the raindrop which washes away a mountain, along with a million, billion, trillion other raindrops. It would also be like the ant who was able to devour the tiger that's laying dead on the African plain, where actually tigers are not Africa, in the Indian jungle. A dead tiger will be consumed by one and more ants, one bite at a time. Now, what we want to do is when we build our castle being our life, our successes, whatever it is we're trying to create in life, we build it one proverbial brick at a time. Because we have to remember that each small attempt repeated will complete anything. I mean, if you build a house one board at a time, you build a foundation one brick, one stone at a time. Even if it's a poured concrete foundation, you're pouring it one drop at a time of concrete. Because remember, we will persist until we succeed. My mantra, I will persist until I succeed. I will never consider defeat. I will remove this word from my vocabulary, and I think you should too. We could also remove many other words from our vocabulary, such as quit, out of the question, cannot, improbable, unable, impossible, hopeless, failure, unworkable, and retreat. For these are the words of defeat. I believe that we all should avoid despair. I know I do. But if this disease of the mind, which despair is, If it should somehow infect me, then I will work on it while in despair. I will toil, I will work hard and endure to throw despair out of my mind, cure myself of that disease. We want to cure ourselves of despair, for it is a disease of the mind, of the thinking. We want to ignore obstacles that are at our feet, for they are small obstacles. They're not really obstacles. You just step over those small obstacles at our feet and keep our focus, keep our eyes on the goals that are above us, that are above our heads, the lofty goals, as they say. For we must remember that even in the driest of deserts, there usually green grass grows somewhere. It's known as an oasis. So even in some of the most barren areas on the planet, where there may be desert, there may be sand for miles and miles and miles, somewhere there's usually at least one oasis. It might be small, maybe minimal, but grass can grow even in the driest of dry places. And that grass that's growing is persistent. So remember, repeat it. We will persist until we succeed. So when you're persisting, you're keeping in mind the law of averages, because that's what persistence is based on. When we persist every day and things are not working, but we know sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. So when you remember the ancient law of averages, and then by using it and going every day, you eventually bend the law of averages to your favor. You want to persist with the knowledge that each failure will increase your chance for success on your next attempt. So you got to keep trying at no matter what it is that you're working on. And that really the only way you can lose is to stop trying. Now, each no you may encounter is one step closer to a yes. Each failure is one step closer to a success. Failures are the tools of teaching. You're not a loser when you fail at something. You're only a loser when you stop trying. Now, remember that each person you encounter is preparing, who has a frown on their face, is preparing you for the next person who has a smile on their face. If you're someone who works in sales or something like that, remember that as well. But as you're going throughout the world and you're seeking kindness, you may not get kindness from every person, but remember, each person that doesn't offer kindness just gets you one step closer to someone who will. Remember that each misfortune that we encounter in life will carry in it the seeds of tomorrow's good luck. So misfortune today is full fortune tomorrow. Because remember, you got to have night to appreciate the day. Remember, we must fail often to succeed, but we only need to succeed once. Usually that's all the difference in the world. Okay? You will do and do and do again, because you will try and try and try again. So eventually you will succeed, because we will persist until we succeed. Now, each obstacle that you encounter throughout life, you should consider as just a detour to your goal, whatever that goal may be. And it's a challenge to your progress. So don't think of these as, obstacles tend to be barriers to stop you, when they're really, a lot of people see detours, but they look at them as obstacles. It's a far difference between a hurdle and a brick wall. And even if it's a brick wall, if it's low enough, it's only merely just a solid hurdle. But if you see all obstacles as merely detours, you assume that there's a way around it, past it, over it, or even through it. And when we run into challenges known as adversity, we only see them as a challenge to your profession, your progression. Now, For me, I decided that I will persist and develop my skills just as a sailor in a ship on the sea, and they learned, those guys, the ancient sailors, on the clipper ships, they had to learn, and I'm sure as many sailors do today, they learn everything about the sea, not just the fact that it's a boat on water. They learn how to read direction by the stars. They learn how to read the weather when they recognize things like storm fronts and cloud fronts and wind shifts and things of that nature. They had to learn all of that stuff as part of becoming a successful sailor, because those that didn't learn often perished. Those that did learn made many, many voyages, many, many trips. And life is just like that. It's a series of voyages, a series of trips, and that we must learn to develop those skills to know how to ride out the storms of life. Henceforth, for me, I said, I will learn and apply another secret for those who already excel at my work. Because we can always go through things, but it's a lot better if we go through things with the guidance and knowledge of those before us. That's the importance of things like books and courses and seminars, where we can learn from people who already been through it. We can sort of shortcut some of that, but we still got to go through it, and we still have to experience it to develop that skill. But we don't have to start from scratch. We can start from where they did and go through. We're still going to go through it, but rather than going through it on our own over a long span of time, we can go through what they went through reading what they shared with us and experience what they experienced in a shorter time frame, and still get all the value without spending all the time. Shortcut. So what I tend to do is I say, at the end of each day, I look back to see whether it has been and no matter whether I felt that the day was a success or a failure, I always attempted to go to bed and end the day on at least one positive note, one more accomplishment. If I'm in sales, one more sales. If I'm working through files, one more file. If I got one more project, if I'm working on a project, one more piece of that project complete, or one more completed project. And so even when I'm tired and we are, when our thoughts beckon us to go home, we continue to work. Sometimes when we continue on and work the project, we continue to do that. So in that perseverance, in that persistence, we will resist the temptation to depart, to go home and try one more time, make one more positive effort for the day. We can try, we want to make one more attempt to close the day on a positive note, with a victory, with a win. And if you fail, you can make one more attempt, and you always want to try to never allow any day to end on a failure. I know that's a lofty goal. I know you might be thinking, oh, that's just ridiculous. That's almost obsessive. That's crazy. You're going to drive yourself into the ground that way. That is always a distinct possibility, but usually once you get that win, all of that tiredness kind of is gone away, because the success of something that you're passionate about, that success refires and reignites you. Thus, you want to plant the seed of tomorrow's success and gain an advantage over those who cease their labor earlier. So when even if you're not the best, if you work harder, you can still succeed more than the guy who's better than you if you just outwork him. When others stop and you keep going, and your harvest will be fuller. Like I said, the other guy may be better than you, but if you outwork him, you will probably outperform him. So then nor will I allow yesterday's success to lull me into a false sense of complacency. For That's complacency is a great foundation for failure. You never want to forget that today is gone, and then you want to greet tomorrow, the sun in the morning, with confidence that this could be the best day of your life. Now, I'm going to read something that says, I will forget the happenings of the day that is gone, whether they were good or bad, and I will greet this new day with confidence that this will be the best day of my life. So long as there is breath in me, that long will I persist. And I think if you follow that, you will find yourself invigorated as well. And then on the last note, I said, I said, for I know now one of the greatest principles of success is that if I persist long enough, I will win. If you persist long enough, you will win. See you in the next video.